Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has stepped down, viewers. This decision has just been communicated by him to the national parliament in his country. He has tendered his resignation because he has been deemed extremely unpopular. Let's listen in.
This again. Bon matin. Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future. We are at a critical moment in the world. Mes chers Canadiens, à chaque matin, je me suis réveillé en tant que Premier ministre, inspiré par la résilience, la générosité et la détermination qui nous caractérisent si bien en tant que Canadiens. C'est ce qui me motive à chaque jour où j'ai le privilège de servir dans ce poste. C'est pourquoi, depuis 2015, je me suis battu pour ce pays, pour vous, pour renforcer la classe moyenne. Pourquoi nous nous sommes mobilisés en tant que Canadiens pour se soutenir les uns les autres pendant la pandémie, pour faire progresser la réconciliation, pour défendre le libre-échange sur notre continent, pour notre soutien inébranlable de l'Ukraine et de la démocratie, et pour lutter contre les changements climatiques et préparer l'économie de l'avenir. Nous traversons vraiment un moment.
That is a translation also in French, viewers, for the Quebecers. As you know, that there's a province in Canada that speaks French, and that message is going out to the French-speaking Canadians from Mr. Trudeau. Siddhant is also there with us. The irony, viewers, however, is that the pro-Khalistan MP and his group of MPs in Parliament, we're talking about Jagmeet Brar, is the one who has actually pulled the rug from under Trudeau. The man whose agenda Mr. Trudeau was flying high to the point that he took up cudgels, to the point that he even wanted to risk his country's relationship with a long-standing, steadfast friend like India, viewers. That man, that Khalistani, has backstabbed Trudeau today. Many people will see this as poetic justice. Let me bring in Siddhant. Siddhant, look, there is no point gloating because this has very little to do, literally, with anything that India might have orchestrated or anything like that. But this is comeuppance, isn't it, at one level? Mr. Trudeau being shown the door because the NDP moves a no-confidence threat. The NDP, of course, is of Jagmeet Brar, and he doesn't have the numbers.
Well, that's right, Rahul. And in fact, all this theatrics, Rahul, that we have been seeing from last 6 months was being done by Mr. Trudeau because he knew that his position is not strong as a Prime Minister. And this is the reason, you know, Rahul, the blame on India for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, coming up with the evidence, allegations, etc., etc. So all that was done only to consolidate his position. But all these theatrics have failed, and now he has announced that he will step down as the leader of the Liberal Party, and he will continue as the Prime Minister of Canada unless party gives the new leader.
Okay.
So the session of the Canadian Parliament has been postponed to until March 24, Rahul, because Justin Trudeau has this fear that his opponents, Jagmeet Singh and Conservative Party, could bring no confidence motion against him in January. So he has postponed the session. So the first session of the Canadian Parliament will now sit in March. Till then, Trudeau will continue as the Prime Minister.
Interim
131 MPs, Liberal MPs, have gone against him, Rahul, and that what has made him to resign. Ontario caucus, Atlantic province, Quebec caucus. 131 MPs, Rahul, we broke this story this morning,
That's right,
have gone against him, and that perhaps compelled him to resign. In October, the number was 24. In December, the number was 50. He managed. But since the number has gone up to 131, there was no option left for him but to step down.
Let me bring in Dean Baxendale, Canadian journalist, Brahma Chileni, Indian strategic analyst here into this conversation. Dean Baxendale, first to you. How do you see this? What are the factors that triggered the resignation? And do you now believe that the next incumbent, whoever it is going to be, will also be as over-leveraged as Trudeau was to the Khalistanis? Okay, we're having a problem connecting there. We're going to bring in Mr. Brahma Chileni first. Mr. Chileni, a very quick one on what do you see unfold here? What's in it for India, if anything at all? Do you think the next incumbent will be wanting to distance himself from the adventurism that Mr. Trudeau embarked upon?
Well, the answer is that Canada, over the last several decades, has refused to clean up its act, despite the Air India bombing of 1985, and it'll be very difficult to expect that the new government, whoever is the next prime minister, is going to start cleaning up the act. But what this really does is that, after nearly 10 years in power, Trudeau is leaving. He's leaving a country whose foreign policy has been damaged under his stewardship. He has damaged Canada's relations with the two most important nation powers, China and India, and his own foreign policy in relation to the US, especially with Trump now taking office, isn't looking good, because Canada is facing the threat of major US tariffs. 80% of Canada's exports go to the US, so it's very vulnerable.
Okay, very vulnerable. Very vulnerable, Professor Chileni. Still, doesn't mean that Canada's out of the woods. Mr. Faulkner and Mr. Baxendale also here with us. Mr. Faulkner, we've of course had conversations earlier, and some of them have been more truculent than the one today. But in India, of course, a lot of people will be delighted at this news, because it appears that Mr. Trudeau has been hoisted on his own petard. He went out there and he felt that the Khalistani cause was one worth championing, to the point where relations with India were strained, and the guy who has done an et tu brute on him is the same pro-Khalistani separatist leader and member of parliament in Canada who has thrown him under the bus, Jagmeet Brar.
Well, if people in India are celebrating this news, the people in Canada are also celebrating, probably even more so. Justin Trudeau was out of options. He had run his political course. He has no more political capital. He had spent it on these woke initiatives. He had spent it again on the Khalistani issue, on the mass immigration issue, and he has left himself with nothing else but to resign, to fall on his sword as he has done today. And as should be noted by the audience, Trudeau will not leave the Prime Minister's office for another few months until the Liberals find a sacrificial lamb to end up being destroyed by Pierre Poilievre in an October federal election. This is going to be a major victory for incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, whose presence as the president-elect has essentially triggered this fallout for Justin Trudeau. Think about it. The incoming president has managed to sideswipe a Canadian prime minister before coming back into power. It was that relationship and that meeting at Mar-a-Lago which precipitated the Chrystia Freeland resignation, which resulted in this announcement today. So it is a major day for Canadian politics. It will shock the Canadian system here, and it is to be seen what will happen for Canada's political system in the next few months.
Okay, stay on with me. Let me also bring in Dean Baxendale. Mr. Baxendale, good evening from India. It's probably morning there in Canada. Simple question. Where do we go from here? Do you think the next incumbent will be a little more sympathetic to making the right noises when it comes to repairing the relationship with India? Or are we expecting to see the same trajectory?
Well, I think there will be a reset on India, but as your former guest just mentioned, really this is about setting the table with the United States. Canada is under a great deal of pressure to fix a number of key issues around economics and national security regarding the border, the fentanyl crisis. But ultimately, all of this saga played out, at the end of his holiday. He had a nice ski trip out west. So let's hope that he enjoyed that. And ultimately, now it's to get down to business. Proroguing Parliament, allowing himself to stay in power for a few months, will allow the Liberals to reset, put in some new leadership that may move them from probably less than 10 seats, as some of the projections had them at, to maybe they get back to 40 to 60, which at least leaves the party intact. But as far as resetting with India, yes, I think this creates an opportunity on that front. I think it creates an opportunity, though, to look at diaspora politics in the country writ large. We have not dealt with this from a national security level. We have allowed foreign governments to interfere inside of Canada for decades. And it's about time we reset this and provided our law enforcement with the tools and the backing, political backing, to get to the bottom of this and root out terrorists and other malign state actors inside our government, inside our country, including organized crime that are affecting our streets and ultimately our geopolitical stance.
Well, that might be a prophetic slip of tongue. There might be a few terrorists even within your government, or at least were, when Jagmeet Bra was there. Anyhow, I leave it at this, viewers. It's been a great overview with Mr. Faulkner, Mr. Chellaney and Mr. Baxendale. We'll, of course, come back and talk about this story as the evening wears on.